A British heartthrob, a career on the line, a scandal so messy it could have buried him for good, until one single TV moment flipped the script. Today we're unpacking Hugh Grant's 1995 scandal and the apology that turned a career-ending disaster into a Hollywood case study. How did one late-night interview transform him from a tabloid punchline back into a rom-com king? And why do modern celebs keep trying and failing to copy his blueprint? Welcome back to Celeb Courtroom Chaos, where the scandals are messy, the spin is shameless, and the legal tea is piping hot. If you weren't around in the mid-1990s, let me set the scene. Hugh Grant wasn't just an actor. He was the charming British import, Hollywood's go-to for bumbling romantic leads. He was dating Elizabeth Hurley, strutting red carpets and flawless suits, and his movie 4 Weddings and a Funeral had just made him an international star. And then, the scandal hit. Arrested in Los Angeles with sex worker Divine Brown, tabloids feasted, studio execs panicked, fans clutched pearls. On paper, it looked like the kind of career implosion you don't come back from. But Hugh? He pulled off one of the most effective public apologies in celebrity history. Tonight, we're breaking it down in 10 acts, from the arrest to the apology, the fallout to the rebuild, and pulling the receipts on what made it work. All right, legal tea first, drama second. Picture Hollywood in 1995. The rom-com was king, and Hugh Grant was its crown jewel. He wasn't just an actor, he was the fantasy, that floppy-haired, charming Brit with the nervous laugh and stammer who somehow always won the girl in the end. His breakout role in 4 Weddings and a Funeral turned him from a UK indie actor into an international star almost overnight. That film made nearly $250 million globally, unheard of for a rom-com at the time. Studios were lining up to sign him, critics adored him, and fans, especially American fans, couldn't get enough. And then there was Elizabeth Hurley, his real-life partner, a model and rising actress who had just stunned the world in that Versace safety pin dress at the 1994 premiere. Together, they were the ultimate power couple, the glamorous Brit it girl and the charming Hollywood newcomer. They were everywhere. Red carpets, magazine covers, late-night couches. Their image screamed sophistication and stability. And then came June 27th, 1995. Los Angeles, Sunset Boulevard. Hugh Grant is pulled over by LAPD in his BMW with sex worker Divine Brown. They're arrested for lewd conduct, and within hours, his mugshot is splashed across tabloids worldwide. The contrast was nuclear. One day, he's the darling of Hollywood, the perfect British gentleman. The next, he's front-page scandal material, caught in an act that didn't just embarrass him, it detonated his entire brand. Think about it. This wasn't a messy divorce, or a heated nightclub fight, or even a drunk driving arrest. This was the ultimate image shatter. The man marketed as the stammering, lovable gentleman was now the guy busted in the most cliché, tabloid-ready sex scandal of the decade. The stakes were massive. Studios panicked about upcoming releases. Publicists whispered about irreparable brand damage. Fans who adored him for his wholesome charm felt betrayed. And Elizabeth Hurley, suddenly cast not as the glamorous partner, but the humiliated woman on every magazine cover. This wasn't just a scandal. It was brand destruction in real time. And it raised the million-dollar question, could Hugh Grant, Hollywood's newest leading man, survive it? Now, here's where Hugh separated himself from 90% of celebrities who land in scandal. Think about the usual playbook. Some stars go into denial mode. It didn't happen. The media is lying. Spoiler, the mugshot always says otherwise. Others pull the disappearing act. They flee to Europe, check into rehab for exhaustion, and hope the public forgets. And then there's the counterattack. Sue the tabloids, threaten the press, shift blame to the other party. Hugh did none of these. Within hours of the arrest, he issued a statement that admitted wrongdoing. Not a full-throated apology yet. That comes later. But enough to acknowledge, yes, this happened, and it was wrong. The speed was the key. In crisis PR, silence is deadly. The longer you wait, the more the media fills the gap with speculation, memes, and conspiracy theories. By moving quickly, Hugh kept control of the narrative from the start. And then there was the tone. He didn't lash out. He didn't minimize it. He didn't try to soften the edges with euphemisms. His tone was contrite, simple, almost awkwardly human. Compare that to someone like Jussie Smollett, who doubled down on a false story until prosecutors dismantled it in court, turning a scandal into a courtroom comedy. Or Tiger Woods, who let his silence fester while voicemail leaks and mistresses piled up, until the scandal ballooned far bigger than it had to be. Hugh's immediate response wasn't polished. It wasn't even strategic in a corporate sense, but that's why it landed. People sensed he wasn't hiding, he wasn't running, he was just a man caught in a humiliating mistake, owning it before anyone else could weaponize it. It set the tone for what would become his saving grace, the public apology that didn't feel like spin. July 1995. Just weeks after the arrest, Hugh Grant walks onto the stage of The Tonight Show with Jay Leno. The timing? Genius. Instead of waiting for the scandal to fade, he put himself front and center on America's most-watched late-night show. At the time, Leno was pulling millions of viewers a night. The perfect stage for a public reckoning. And you can feel it in the room. The audience is buzzing, half laughing, half gasping. Jay looks at him with that mischievous grin, and instead of easing into it, he just cuts straight to the line. "What the hell were you thinking?" Boom. The question everyone in America wanted answered. No softball, no polite framing. Just raw. And Hugh? He delivers the line that would save his career. "I did a bad thing. I did a bad thing." And there you have it. That's it. No excuses, no pages of PR-approved spin, just 5 words that disarmed the outrage. But here's why it worked so brilliantly. The delivery. Body language. He looked nervous, shoulders slightly hunched, awkward smiles, fumbling a bit. It read as genuine humility instead of arrogance. Tone. Not defiant, not overly rehearsed. It was conversational, almost self-deprecating, like a guy admitting he locked his keys in the car, except the stakes were global humiliation. Accountability. He never once shifted blame. No, "I was under pressure." No, "I made a mistake," but he owned it fully. And in that moment, the narrative flipped. Instead of being roasted as the sleazy hypocrite who betrayed Elizabeth Hurley, he became the man who faced the music on live TV. Here's the kicker. Ratings for that Tonight Show episode? Through the roof. It was one of Jay Leno's highest-rated episodes of the decade, which meant Hugh didn't just apologize, he made the apology itself an event. What it changed. Suddenly, the scandal wasn't just about the crime, it was about the apology. Tabloids had to cover not just the arrest, but the way Hugh handled it. His humility became the headline. It was crisis PR alchemy, turning humiliation into relatability. When a celebrity scandal breaks, the media usually acts like sharks circling blood in the water. And make no mistake, Hugh Grant's arrest was a feeding frenzy. Tabloids went wild, from 4 weddings to 1 arrest. Hurley's humiliation. Gentlemen caught in not-so-gentlemanly act. The British press especially had a field day. Every front page was a pun, every gossip column a dissection of the downfall. But then came The Tonight Show. And here's where it gets interesting. Hugh's message cut through the noise so sharply that even the press had to pivot. Where the media framed him as a hypocrite, he framed himself as human. Where they wanted to paint a double-page spread of shame, he gave them a redemption angle they couldn't resist. And journalists, who usually thrive on tearing people down, love a narrative shift. Suddenly, the coverage wasn't just actor caught in sleazy scandal. It was actor apologizes, audience applauds. How Hugh Grant charmed his way back into public favor. What he did was flip the script. Instead of giving reporters denial or spin they could shred apart, he gave them a soundbite so simple it couldn't be twisted. "I did a bad thing." That left editors with 2 options. Recycle the same lurid scandal details, or jump on the fresher, hotter angle. The apology. And of course, they chose the latter. It's a rare case where a celebrity didn't fight the media, but redirected it. Hugh didn't resist the scandal. He leaned into it. He acknowledged it, then let the press do the rest, turning his contrition into the story. And here's the subtle brilliance. Once the media started running with the apology, they gave him something every scandal-ridden star dreams of, a second narrative. Instead of being trapped in the incident, he got to pivot to the redemption. Sometimes the smartest move in a scandal isn't what you say, it's what you don't say. And Hugh Grant's apology tour is a masterclass in knowing when to shut up. Here's what he didn't do. He didn't blame fame or stress. No, the pressures of Hollywood got to me. He didn't shift it to addiction. No, I was drunk, I wasn't myself. He didn't attack the media. No angry rants about paparazzi or tabloids ruining his life. And crucially, he didn't drag Divine Brown. He never demeaned her, never threw her under the bus, never tried to paint himself as the victim of a setup. That silence spoke volumes. Because when celebs start throwing out excuses, it reads as spin. The public doesn't buy it, and the media tears it apart. Just look at the contrast. Winona Ryder, 2001, tried to downplay her shoplifting scandal, claimed it was stress-related, tabloids mocked her endlessly. Lindsay Lohan, 2007 plus. Layers of excuses, not my pants, rehab cycles, each denial eroded credibility. Armie Hammer, 2021, counterattacked critics instead of addressing accusations. His career never recovered. Hugh avoided all of that. He kept his apology brutally simple. I did a bad thing. And by refusing to stack excuses on top, he made it harder for critics to poke holes. What it changed? Instead of being seen as manipulative, he was seen as accountable. Instead of prolonging the story with new angles, he shut down the scandal's oxygen supply. Sometimes in scandal PR, less isn't just more, it's survival. Make no mistake, the arrest had fallout. Hugh Grant's gentlemanly brand wasn't just bruised, it was on life support. Studios hate unpredictability, and suddenly, Hugh looked like a liability. Tabloids plastered his mugshot on covers for months. Red carpet photos shifted from dashing new star to humiliated boyfriend. Elizabeth Hurley, standing by him at premieres in that iconic Versace dress, was rebranded by the media as the wronged woman. The shine was gone. But here's the twist. Hollywood didn't actually drop him. And that's where the business side of the scandal comes in. At the time of his arrest, Hugh had a huge movie about to premiere. 9 months, July 1995, co-starring Julianne Moore and Robin Williams. Studio execs panicked. Would audiences boycott? Would the scandal tank ticket sales? Instead, the opposite happened. The movie grossed over $130 million worldwide. People didn't turn away. If anything, curiosity drove them in. Viewers wanted to see whether Hugh's screen charm still worked, and spoiler, it did. And that's the crucial point. Hollywood forgives if the box office holds. As long as audiences kept showing up, studios weren't about to throw away their bankable rom-com lead. What it changed? Hugh didn't get blacklisted, he got benched. For a few months, the scandal defined him, but once the receipts rolled in from 9 months, producers realized, okay, the brand took a hit, but it's not dead. People still buy tickets, so instead of being erased, Hugh entered what I call the quiet rebuild phase. Work didn't dry up, it just shifted more carefully while the scandal cooled. And that cooling period set the stage for one of the smartest career pivots in rom-com history, the next act of his rebuild. By the late 90s, Hugh Grant wasn't just surviving, he was thriving again. And it all came down to one smart strategy. Lean back into what he did best, but with a subtle twist. Enter Notting Hill, 1999. Paired with Julia Roberts, Hugh played the role he was born for. The bumbling, awkward, but utterly charming everyman who somehow stumbles into love. The movie was a global hit, pulling in over $360 million at the box office. Suddenly, the scandal headlines faded into background noise. Hugh wasn't the guy caught with Divine Brown. He was back to being the guy who gets the girl. Then came Bridget Jones's Diary, 2001, and this one was even smarter. Instead of playing the perfect sweetheart, Hugh leaned into the scandal. Just a little. He took the role of Daniel Cleaver, the rakish, slightly sleazy boss who woos Bridget with charm but turns out to be unreliable. It was Hugh's first real cad role, and audiences ate it up. Why? Because it felt like he was in on the joke. The scandal had given him an edge, and now he was using it. And of course, Love Actually, 2003. By then, Hugh was not just forgiven, he was beloved again. Playing the Prime Minister of Britain who dances around 10 Downing Street? Iconic. The scandal was now a footnote, not a headline. Here's the genius of it. The scandal actually helped him long-term. Pre-1995, Hugh was in danger of being typecast as the one-note floppy-haired charmer. After the scandal, he added a layer of humanity, a flaw. Suddenly, his characters felt more real, more dimensional. less perfect. Hollywood loves a redemption arc, and Hugh's rom-com choices gave the industry and audiences the exact narrative they craved. The flawed man who still gets the happy ending. What it changed? Hugh didn't just bounce back. He leveled up. He went from rom-com star to rom-com legend. By the 2000s and 2010s, Hugh Grant had fully rebuilt his rom-com empire. But he didn't just ignore the scandal, he weaponized it with humor. Every so often, the 1995 incident would resurface in interviews, roasts, or retrospectives. And Hugh never bristled. He never got defensive. Instead, he leaned into it with a smirk, with a joke, with the kind of dry, self-deprecating humor only a Brit could pull off. For example, in later interviews, he'd casually reference that time his career took a very awkward detour down Sunset Boulevard. On talk shows, when asked about embarrassing moments, he'd sigh dramatically and deadpan, "Well, there was that one time in Los Angeles," sending audiences into laughter. This tactic matters because scandals don't disappear. The internet never forgets, but Hugh proved something crucial. If you own the joke, it stops being a weapon. Other celebs have tried the same trick. Robert Downey Jr. constantly jokes about his arrests and prison time, and it's become part of his charm. Charlie Sheen tried it too, but went overboard, turning self-deprecation into spectacle. And it backfired. Hugh nailed the balance. He sprinkled it in lightly, reminding people he was aware of his flaws, but never drowning his image in the scandal. Instead, he reframed it as a funny anecdote from a past life, something cringy but survivable. And here's the kicker, the humor didn't just soften his past, it made him relatable. Because who hasn't done something monumentally dumb they'd rather forget? Hugh just happened to do his on the global stage. By turning the scandal into a punchline, his punchline, he transformed it from a career killer into a quirky footnote. And the public ate it up. So why did Hugh Grant's apology work when so many others have flopped harder than a straight-to-DVD sequel? It boils down to 3 rules, simple but lethal in their effectiveness. Rule number 1, speed is everything. Hugh didn't wait. Within hours, he admitted he screwed up. Within weeks, he sat across from Jay Leno, facing the question head-on. Compare that to Tiger Woods in 2009. He disappeared for weeks while voicemail leaks and mistresses piled up. By the time he finally apologized, the scandal had ballooned into a circus. Hugh proved the golden rule. If you don't fill the silence, the internet, or back then, the tabloids, will fill it for you. Rule number 2, simplicity beats spin. Hugh's message was 5 words. I did a bad thing. That was the soundbite. It was clear, it was repeatable, and it left no wiggle room. Now look at Jussie Smollett. Instead of keeping it simple, he doubled down on a convoluted lie, layer after layer, until prosecutors dismantled it in court. The story didn't just collapse, it turned into a comedy routine. Spin always unravels. Simplicity sticks. Rule number 3, humility sells. This might be the hardest for celebrities. Hugh walked out visibly nervous. He didn't strut, didn't get angry, didn't deliver a polished, lawyer-approved statement. He looked embarrassed. Human. Compare that to Chris Brown after the Rihanna assault. His apology tour was over-rehearsed. Tears on cue, bow ties, scripted lines about not being a monster. It read as fake. And the public shredded him for it? Humility isn't about crocodile tears. It's about letting people see you squirm. And Hugh squirmed just enough. And that's the core of why his apology became the blueprint. Speed, simplicity, humility. Most celebs miss one of those steps. Some move fast but overspin. Some stay humble but too late. Some keep it simple but only after denying everything first. Hugh somehow got all 3 right in one shot. And it turned a career-killing scandal into a cultural case study. Almost 30 years later, Hugh Grant's apology is still the gold standard. Publicists still talk about it, PR classes still study it, and celebrities still try to copy it. But let's be real, most of them fail miserably. And the reason his apology worked is surprisingly simple. It was messy in the right way. He wasn't polished, he wasn't perfect. He was nervous, awkward, a little squirmy, but he owned it. That kind of raw humanity is exactly what people connect with. Now compare that to how modern celebrities handle scandal. Think about Will Smith after the Oscars slap. His first apology? An Instagram statement that was too slick, too rehearsed. By the time he finally sat down for a raw video, the damage was already done. Or Logan Paul after the infamous Suicide Forest video. His YouTube apology was so overproduced, jump cuts, dramatic music, it felt more like content than remorse. And then you've got Amber Heard, who leaned so hard into spin and long-winded statements that it ended up fueling a defamation trial that wrecked her reputation. All of them missed one of Hugh's 3 golden rules: move fast, keep it simple, stay humble. There are a few who came close. Robert Downey Jr., for example, leaned into humor about his arrests instead of hiding from them, and it became part of his charm. Or Pete Davidson, who turns his tabloid disasters into punchlines on SNL. They both use the same trick Hugh did. Own it before the internet can weaponize it against you. But here's the truth. Hugh still stands alone. His scandal didn't kill him because he never tried to outsmart the public. He didn't gaslight, didn't litigate, didn't spin. He just admitted he did something stupid. And that awkward honesty made people root for him again. And the irony? This all happened in the mid-1990s. Before Twitter, before TikTok, before memes could carry your face across the world in seconds. And even then, his apology went viral in the old school way. Headlines, reruns, water cooler talk. Imagine that moment in today's social media age. It would have broken the internet. So the takeaway is clear. Celebrities keep trying to reinvent the wheel, but the Hugh Grant blueprint still works. Don't overthink it, don't overspin it. Just face the music, admit you messed up, and let your awkward humanity do the rest. And there you have it. Hugh Grant's 1995 scandal wasn't just a tabloid meltdown, it was the blueprint for how to apologize and survive. But here's the real question. Do you think Hugh's approach would still work today, in the age of Twitter mobs, TikTok stitches, and memes that never die? Or was his apology a one-time masterclass that only worked in a pre-social media world? Drop your verdict in the comments. I'm curious if you think modern celebs could pull off the same trick, or if they'd get eaten alive online. And if you love your gossip with a side of subpoenas, hit that subscribe button before you go, because in Hollywood, the scandals keep coming. And I'll be here with the receipts.